a journalist from BBC decided to sit down and interview Elon Musk about his policies on Twitter about misinformation and hate speech. And this interview did not go the way that this journalist was planning, and it was a beautiful thing to watch unfold. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I am so grateful that you have chosen to watch one of my videos, and I hope that you will subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for your continued support. Please make sure that you are subscribed as well. On my channel, I just touch on things like politics, news, current events, anything going on in the world that I think needs another opinion, particularly one of logic, reason, and sanity. So help me to grow this channel and reach more people that value those things. Also, be sure to head on over to Rumble and find me there under Outspoken Samantha in the event that YouTube decides I have violated their community standards and chooses to kick me off their platform forever. That being said, let's get into today's topic. There have been several clips of this interview going around social media, and I highly recommend watching it in its entirety. It's of this interview between Elon Musk and a BBC reporter named James Clayton. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish by this. I have no idea what James Clayton had in his brain that he was trying to achieve, whether he was just trying to make a name for himself or, provide these gotcha questions to Elon and really, prove that he could put like the richest man in the world on the spot and call him out for either hypocrisy or being a danger to society. I don't know. But whatever it is that he had in his brain, it completely and totally, utterly failed. Leading up to this 2-minute clip, first they start talking about free speech, and James Clayton asks Elon Musk if he prioritizes free speech over the risks that are associated with spreading misinformation. And you can't compare the two. You cannot compare the ability to speak and communicate and discuss freely and access a wide range of information to think critically for yourself versus the risk that some people are going to come across information that they don't understand or that needs more context or needs more research. And Elon Musk makes the point. Once you get rid of free speech, there's no going back from that. There is no getting it back, and that is 100% true. And as Americans, it seems that people are so just ready to give up that right because we cannot fathom living under a type of government that has so much control over our lives where they can literally criminalize the things that we say. But once they get to that level of control, there's no voting your way out of it. There's no protesting your way out of it. And that is something that most of us do not want to learn the hard way.
Well, who's to say that something is misinformation? Who's the arbiter of that? Is it the BBC?
You're literally asking me?
Yes.
Well, no, you are the arbiter on Twitter because you own Twitter.
Yes, I'm saying who is to say that one person's misinformation is another person's information? The point at which you said that there is this is misinformation. Like, who is going to decide that?
You accept that misinformation can be dangerous, that it can cause real-world harms, that it can potentially cause.
Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is that the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false.
So I want to pause right here just for a second and talk about this whole idea of misinformation, because when they say, "Do you think it's dangerous to spread misinformation?" they're not talking about information that is just blatantly false or it's an absolute lie, nor do they have the intention of keeping information away from us just because it is false. When you have people using this label of misinformation, it's to achieve an agenda. They have particular things that they want us to believe, they have a direction that they want to usher society into, and they need us to only have access to information that furthers that goal. There are certain risks with people having access to information that may or may not be true or might be missing context or require a little bit more effort to figure out how accurate it is or to get the whole story, whatever it is. But there are far more risks associated when you have people in charge that are power hungry, that are using this label of misinformation to silence stuff that goes against what they are trying to do. Because it's not that they're keeping information away from us that's harmful to us, they're keeping information away from us that's harmful to them. Like when the COVID pandemic first started, we didn't have the information that we needed. We didn't know how deadly this virus was. We didn't know who was most at risk. So we all made sacrifices to stay home and kind of hunker down and wait to see what the risks were. It didn't take long to realize that there were certain people that were at far higher risk than others, that there were certain people that probably needed a higher level of protection, that it made more sense for them to stay home than everybody else. But the narrative being pushed was that everybody in America from infancy to 100 years old was at the same level of risk, and that we were all going to die if we left our homes, if we tried to gather with our loved ones, if we tried to visit grandma in the nursing home. And they kept pushing this message that they were only trying to keep us safe and healthy, that they were trying to save lives. Meanwhile, there were all of these doctors trying to come forward and say, hey, we are using different treatments and it's working. We have effective, proven things that we are doing in our offices with our COVID patients that is actually saving lives. Instead of dictator Fauci welcoming these doctors to the conversation and actually demonstrating an interest in saving lives by opening it up and saying, what have we tried that's working? What have we tried that's not working? They completely shut the conversation down and censored anybody who offered a treatment or a solution that did not involve masks and did not involve keeping people in their homes and keeping schools closed. They had to keep the fear level high because when people are scared, they are more obedient. And about a year and a half ago, the CDC did add hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin as effective treatments to COVID. And they knew at the time that this was working. And then the vaccines came out and they wanted the ability to tie our freedom to getting the vaccines. So again, if they had acknowledged that there are these other treatments that work, they wouldn't have been able to do that. So this is all about an agenda. This is our goal of control. What do we need to get people there? And we need to shut down anything that is going to threaten that goal. But it makes you wonder how many lives could have been saved had they actually acknowledged these other treatments that were working and allowed people to access them and allowed people to access information about it. And then they get into this issue about hate speech.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
and
said
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second. You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
If someone comes to me and says this particular influencer or Twitter account or commentator is spreading hate speech, my first reaction is going to be, oh, what is it that they said? And again, who determines what is hateful? Because what's hateful to one person is not going to be hateful to somebody else. And I might say something that you interpret to be hateful. And I could have completely and totally not intended something that I said to sound that way. So that is why the discussion is important. And it is important to clarify what these things mean so that we're all not just floundering around and allowing people's personal interpretation of what hate speech is to be the determining factor for who can and cannot speak. And if you're going to accuse somebody of something, then you have to be able to back it up. Like when Marjorie Taylor Greene says that the Democrats are the party of pedophiles, we can point to numerous examples of how that is true. When we say that teachers are indoctrinating children and failing at their jobs at actually educating children, I can point to numerous situations that confirm that point. When we say that kids are being sexually groomed, we can point to numerous examples probably just this week of that happening. So when I say things, I have the grounds to back it up. So Elon is just sitting there like, you just said that you personally saw hateful content increase on your feed, yet you can't think of one thing. And then this guy is saying, well, you know, I haven't been on there in several weeks. It's like, yeah, but you just said that you have been paying attention for 6 months. So you have 6 months worth of hateful content supposedly increasing, yet you can't come up with one example.
How did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying...
Then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet. And yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not... I mean, right, and
literally
you look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I've already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know there's hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time.
Wow. These guys don't want to have to define what hate speech is, because ultimately at the end of the day, when it comes to what the leftist definition of hate speech is, it's not about what is being said, but it's about who is saying it. They want to be able to censor people they disagree with just by telling their base, we shut down their account because they're spreading hate speech, but they don't want to have to give a specific example, because if they do, then they have this point of reference for comparison, and then they open up for people to question them and compare things that they've said to the people that they're censoring and say, hey, if you're going to apply this standard to them, I can see numerous examples of you doing exactly the same thing. And it's bad enough when the media acts like this, but it's even worse when these same standards are applied to a violent mob like the one who attacked Riley Gaines, feeling justified in attacking and physically attacking people because they believe these talking points that Riley Gaines is anti-trans and that she's against transgender rights and she wants to eradicate them from society. And they believe them without needing an example, feeling like this gives them grounds to go after her and to silence her through intimidation and these other bullying and violent tactics, because they feel like the accusation, the baseless accusation, is enough to justify silencing people by intimidating them. And it really just astonishes me how we have this entire base in this country that feels like they can just accuse people of whatever they want and feel so emboldened just in the accusation alone to behave in this way, to treat other people like this. And this is why we need to just continue to fight for the truth and be able to say the things that need to be said and expect more from people. Expect people to be able to justify the things that they say and to not attack people just because of something that they've heard or that they've been misled on, because the actual misinformation are the talking points that Riley Gaines is anti-trans or that there's this increase of hate content on Twitter. Those are the pieces of misinformation going around, and those are the things that are actually harmful to people. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below, or just help me with the algorithm and leave an emoji in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel, help me to grow this channel to reach more people that value logic, reason, and sanity. Also be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time I post a video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.